who that was?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good
How
morning.
are you? You awake? I just woke Timmy up. I said, get some coffee. We're going live. You're a farmer, aren't you supposed to be up like before dawn?
No.
See, we're going to have everyone confused because we're early this morning. We're either early or late or right on time. You got your pick, one of the three. But we're early today for a reason. So if you're just joining us for the very first time, I'm Amber.
I'm Timmy.
And we're two of the 5 Bradshaw family members that moved from the beach in the city and left it all behind and said, we've lost our rocker. We're going to go live off grid in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, someplace that we've never been before. We're not hiding. No one's chasing us. Well, I don't know. Some people might be chasing us. We did this as a God-driven purpose and a calling. So here we are. You don't have nothing to add to that?
We said adios, amigos.
And we didn't grow up this way, but we got here as quick as we could. I like that saying. I found it somewhere, saw it somewhere, and I love it. It's like we weren't raised like this, but we got here as quick as we could, even if it was in the middle of our lifespan. And since we moved, our son Gavin got married to a wonderful woman named Ashlyn.
Mm-hmm.
They live off grid here as well. I'd like to say they're a little more off grid than we are.
Yeah, they're living a dream, man.
They don't even have alternative electricity, so they're really off grid. And then my mother moved, and she is a senior, and she is living in our little cabin, semi off grid, at the base of our property, 300 foot down from us in elevation and half a mile away. And she's making it work. So here we are, one big happy family. Our eldest daughter, Morgan, though, she lives in the city. She's a city girl. She lives in Knoxville with her boyfriend, and she works at Starbucks. So she stayed here for a while. Wasn't her cup of tea at the moment, and decided to go move to the city. So what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. However, I will say this. Morgan possesses the skills that she needs to survive in any situation. So all of that hasn't left her. That's still in her mind. You know, the power went out last week during a storm. She was completely fine because she knew how to handle herself. She knew how to make coffee without electricity. She knew how to get water. She knew how to use the toilet. You know what I mean? All of those things that some people without those skills freak out about. So anyhow.
Yeah, she's been through enough hurricanes and...
Well, the floodings that we've had here.
Yeah, and... Yeah, so she's prepared.
She's well equipped. Yeah. So we're early today for a reason, and the third Sunday of every month is our prepper meeting, and it's far away. And wake up, son! I love the amount of information that we learn when we go there, and it's always something different every time. Like last month was talking about prepping your everyday carry for your car, like, you know, your get home bag and things like that. The month before is about growing food in a greenhouse, and they had someone from the university and the agriculture department come and speak to us about that. We're early this morning, y'all, so if you're just joining on time and you're like, wait, it's almost over, I'm sorry. It's just, you can rewind it and watch it. We still look at the comments, though. So if you leave a comment and you miss the actual live, don't worry about it. We will reply, or send us a message on Facebook, or send us an email at amber@myhomesteadlife.com. We will reply, even if you're not live. So don't worry about that. We're just early this morning because we have things we got to do. I know this is cheesy, y'all. We percolate our coffee over fire. It's how we make our coffee. It's the best coffee ever. It's how we did our coffee for our coffee shop. But my coffee right now is fall coffee. I'm excited about fall. I'm not rushing it. I love summer. But I'm painting pumpkins, and I have it in my coffee because I'm that person. I've already started my Christmas shopping. Yep.
Yeah, even though it's, you know,
It's going to be 100 degrees this week.
It's going to be a little warm, but I can still feel it. I guess in the mornings and the way it cools off at night, I can tell.
You're not waking up already roasting.
Fall is on its way.
I'm excited. But because fall here is absolutely stunning. It's my favorite time of year here. It's unbelievable. But the older we get, the seasons just go so quickly. Everything goes quickly.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I think it's because we're just more aware.
We're older.
Yeah.
Young kids, everything goes slow. Like they can't wait for the weekend. School week goes so slow. It goes so slow to get to Christmas. And when you get older, it's like, boop, it's done.
We're more aware of the day, time.
Okay, so let's talk about what we intended to talk about. Last weekend, if you missed it, we were talking about the, well, our topic last weekend was, with being okay with waiting for things to happen, for your homestead, for God's plans in your life, to being okay with being still while all the pieces fall into place and not rushing everything. And we were talking about homesteading and how you can have a plan and it all goes kapoop. Like for instance, you can have a garden, farmers, they experience this all the time. We have an orchard down the road from us. Beautiful apple orchard's been there for years and years and years. Infestation had happened and they had to pull every single apple tree out the ground and burn it. And I'm sure that's not what they planned. And if all of their apples were in one basket, so to speak, if they didn't have any other stream of income, I'm sure that just devastated them as a farm. And that's putting once in. That happens to all the time. I mean, you can have the most beautiful lush garden and you go out there to check on your squash one day and then all of a sudden the leaves start dying. You can't figure out what's going on. And you got squash bugs in it. So in everything, I believe that you should diversify. But that means even if you have, for instance, a job that you love and you feel like you have job security, in my mind, you should always have another way that you can generate income to diversify your income just in case something happens to that one main stream. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal for everybody to do it, but you should have a follow-up, a backup plan. And that includes gardening, and that's what we're going to talk about. What?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and something a little more solid to have for a food source is, important, and that's why we have our garden, we have a greenhouse, we have raised beds,
we have the hoop houses,
and
we have the microgreens, we have the tower gardens. You have to be able to diversify, and there's so many ways to grow food. Because I hear from people all the time, I don't have a big yard. Well, you can still grow food. Because when we were in Polly's, other than rooftop gardening, which I always wanted to do, we pretty much tried almost every method. And you try until you succeed to some extent. I mean, obviously, you're not going to grow a year's worth of food for an entire family in little pots on your patio. But you can certainly supplement and you can pick the best crops to grow for that area. So if you only have a small area to grow, first of all, don't be growing watermelon and cantaloupe and zucchini or something that takes up a ton of space unless that's going to be your main food source. You need to, use that smart real estate, if you would. For instance, if you have a prime piece of real estate in a city, you're not going to put just a storage building on it for you and your lawnmower and stuff. You're going to put a prime piece of structure on that real estate to generate the most revenue. And that's the same thing that you want to do with your soil. So if you only have a small amount of soil to grow food, don't grow just one plant that has a really long growth cycle, or don't plant one plant that takes up, for instance, cabbage and broccoli. It takes up a lot of space. It grows really big and it produces one head of cauliflower, one head of broccoli, one head of cabbage. Doesn't make much sense when you can put a tomato plant in that same space and have abundance of tomatoes for the whole season. Get it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or also, too, with that, consider looking into companion planting. For instance, if you plant your tomatoes up top, plant your carrots down below, or if you have, your lettuce, plant radish in between each one, and different things like that to make the most out of your soil. But some ways that we've grown food to diversify, to think outside of the box. Pretty much anywhere you can have soil and drainage and sunlight, you can have food. And then I want to take that back. If you have darkness and no soil, you can still have food. Mushrooms. Get it?
Yeah.
And there's always, so we had, back at home, we had vertical gardening, which is a great use of vertical space. I love vertical gardening. We grew all of our tomatoes vertically because they were indeterminate tomatoes varieties. Well, we grew determinate too, but mainly indeterminate. And if you don't know what that means they grow to an indeterminate length. I mean, they actually stop growing after a while, but they get really long, really scraggly, really tall. They're not short and bushy like determinate ones, but they are prolific producers and they produce throughout months instead of just one shot. We grew all of our zucchini, all of our squash, our cantaloupes, our melons. All of those we grew vertically. And even the ones that didn't grow vertically, like if we wanted to plant, good morning, Linda, flowers, we grew those in pots on the vertical structure. So we still use that as well. We did decoration like that before. We grew vertically and did all those little different flower mums and stuff going down by the pool. Remember that?
Yeah.
And at the bottom of our vertical garden, we had raised beds. Our vertical garden did twofold for us. It gave us more growing space that we didn't have before because we lived on a small lot. And it also, when it filled in, provided a privacy fence. And when it filled in, you couldn't see through on either side, and it was amazing. I love that garden. I wonder if they still have it. I would hope so.
That's a good question.
Maybe Linda can drive by for us. Our old place and see if they still have the gardens and everything. I know the people that bought it right after us kind of destroyed it and ignored it, but then the new homeowners absolutely love it. So I'm tickled about that. The other way to diversify how you're gardening is, which I suggest every new homeowner do this, or every new homeowner do this, is plant fruit and nut trees and berry bushes as soon as you land on your feet there, because it takes so long to establish. You want to get that started first. And areas like asparagus that take 3 years to harvest, rhubarb, you can grow rhubarb, things like that can serve as a food source, but as part of the landscaping as well. You don't have to worry about actually have a garden section for it. I strongly suggest doing that. But other things that we grew hydroponically, we grew aeroponically. Our friends had aquaponic farm, meaning they used fish to farm. They no longer do that, by the way. But I mean, they did it for years and years. Their life changed and they're getting ready to live in RV and travel. So they don't do the aquaponics anymore. But you can grow in containers and in pots, your row gardening, like I said, your vertical gardening. Raised beds now, I think I love raised beds because I don't like bending over. I can no longer get on my knees in the garden for hours a day. So if you're aging like we are, raised beds are your friend. And here we did trellis gardening where, you garden on the side of a mountain. It's not a lot of fun doing that either. But did I say it's not trellis gardening? What is that called? Growing the food on the side of the hill.
Yeah.
Is it trellis?
No.
Lord have mercy. What is it?
Anyway,
I'm going to have to Google that stuff, y'all.
We grew a lot of food, tomatoes and okra. And
Kathy, thank you. Gosh. Thank you. Not enough coffee yet. I appreciate it. I love it that people's brains are working better than mine. Um,
We were really surprised at how well it worked.
the terrace garden?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was the most beautiful garden. And we never, the thing about that, since we've been here, um, out of necessity, we never water our gardens ever. And I tell the little plant when I put it in there, and it's a healthy little plant, I said, you're going to have to be strong because I'm not going to take care of you. This is it. You're on your own now. And that's all they get. They get love, they get a little prayer, and then they let nature do its rest. And those that are weak don't survive, and those that are strong survive and produce.
Yeah. The only difference with growing food down in the holler is the soil there is very rich.
It's different than up here, and
Uh,
it stays moist.
Up here, you have to bring your soil in because
We have clay.
it's not.
It's clay.
Yeah.
It's nutrient deficient.
Yeah.
And that so let me finish those different ways we grow microgreens inside. You can grow those in a closet with some grow lights. We bought our grow light system for like $15 on Amazon. I think the other one was like $39. You don't need an expensive system. We got a shelf unit from Wally World, and we can have fresh greens in less than 10 days from those. And repeat every 10 days, fresh greens. And we grew mushrooms. We had a little mushroom area that Timmy built for us, and we grew mushrooms. You can grow them in a kit on the kitchen counter. And then you have your traditional row gardening, and you got your hoopcular gardening. I never say that word right. It's basically making a mound out of layers of debris. You got lasagna gardening, keyhole gardening. A friend Tamara in Texas did the keyhole gardening. I've seen them in South Carolina at different gardens that we used to tour. And then you have your rooftop gardening. Now, your rooftop gardening, there's a lot that goes into that. I don't think it's very prolific as far as producing food. I do think it has other benefits, and I do think you could that would be a good place to plant herbs like thyme or something, or oregano or something low and creeping that doesn't need a massive root system, and you don't have to get up on your roof to harvest it all the time. Yeah, that's not necessarily, in my opinion, the best consideration if you're wanting to grow food, but it certainly has other advantages. And there's so if you're not diversifying your gardening methods, one, you're missing out, and two, you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, and there may be a time where that comes to bite you in the butt. But should I not say that?
No, that's good information.
But as far as the soil thing goes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So when you grow food in a controlled environment, whether that be in a pot or in a raised bed, you can control the soil as well. And a healthy soil is by far the most important for growing healthy vegetables, period. If you have poor soil and you try to we learned our lesson. We knew it, but we still did it anyhow. And you put a plant in there and you want it to thrive, it's going to get diseases, it's going to get fungus, it's going to get pest infestation because you're not starting out with a healthy foundation. We have an area that gives you organic compost for free. Our son works there. That's one way to do it. You can make your own compost if you don't have access to that, or you can't buy, really expensive bags of organic compost. You can do it by composting your produce scraps. It turns out to be beautiful soil, very rich humus. We've done it for years and years. We did it in Polly's. We do it here. And you just have a bin outside, or two. I like two. And you you layer, your brown matter, your green matter, and your produce scraps. And it does take a while, but after a while, it's just we had some of our best food grow out of our compost bed.
Very true.
And the other way that you could do it, same thing with composting, but it's the vermiculture, which we've done for well over a decade. And that is using worms to break down the food, and they produce a beautiful, rich compost as well. It just takes a long time. So if you're in a hurry, those aren't good options. But
that good rich soil has a certain smell to it. You know that it
Oh,
is.
you smell. I'm sitting here. I
It's
can smell it. It smells
yeah,
so rich,
yeah,
and it's just like when you're in the forest and you turn up leaves, you kind of got that
yeah.
musty, earthy smell. That's what it is, and it's beautiful and it's black gold. But you need to have that good soil. So I strongly suggest. Are you still raising earthworms? Yes, Linda. And then we have mealworms that we raise too, and we still have. Well, we moved them out into the bathhouse during the summer, and in the winter they come inside because during the summer the flies and stuff that get around in it and everything's just a little bit much.
Yeah, every now and then you'll see one go rogue. He'll be wondering or he'll get out. And
Let
like,
the chickens
I
get
know where you belong.
it. So, but anyhow, I think it's very important that you diversify your gardening, even if you just do patio gardening. If you're used to just growing some fruits or vegetables and some potted plants in your patio, try to do microgreens inside. It's very easy to set up. It's very cheap to set up. I have an article on my website and you want some step-by-step instructions. Just go to myhomesteadlife.com and look up microgreens and it'll pop up. Um, or get one of those mushroom kits and grow those, or do some more inside plants, or try to do a vertical, planter system on your porch and grow more food that way. Because it's getting to be the season where y'all can start growing lettuce and greens like that.
Yeah.
We have one of those vertical gardens that have wheels on it. So it doesn't need any electricity or anything. It's just a regular soil garden. It does not aeroponics or hydroponics. And when it's cold, we just wheel it inside and warm, wheel it back out. My mom actually has that and is growing a lot in it right now. So diversifying your gardening. And I'd like to get into why we feel this is so important right now. But unfortunately, we got to get going. We've got our prepper meeting. What is our topic today? I can't remember the name of it, but I've been looking forward to this for a year.
An outdoor cob oven. It's more like a furnace that is built outside, and it has a pipe, a ductwork that goes to your house and can tie into your ductwork. And
there's a blower on it, right?
Yeah, you build your fire in it, and you keep everything outside. It has a blower on it, and it heats your home.
One member of our prepper group, he's older, like he's in his, I would guess to say mid-70s, and they built this cob heater, like a cob oven, for their home, and he says he just puts wood scraps in it. Doesn't even have to chop wood and split wood to put in it, and it heats. And they have a big home, and it heats his entire house. And he said it's 500 degrees coming out of that cob oven, and I'm just I've been wanting to go to his house, but not ask him because I know how people how I feel when people are going, oh, I'm coming over your house to look at everything. I'm like, okay, so I would never impose like that, but I've been wanting to ask him for a long time now. And when I heard today's subject, I'm like, oh, we've got to be there. So I'm hoping that they took really good pictures of the process because nothing is better than hands-on training. It's going to be like a slideshow presentation, but I am going to ask 1,000 questions because we heat our home, and Gavin heats his home, and Mom's got a propane heater, all with wood, and it does well. It serves us very well. However, we have our earth tube for our air and the floor, and I would love if we could implement a forced air system in that was all sustainable and off grid, obviously, and natural. So I'm excited to see and hear more about this process. And believe you me, I'm going to ask a ton of questions.
Yeah, I'm interested in getting some information
because if there's a better way to do something, or a secondary way to do something, or a different way to do something, I want to learn. I mean, I think that's too about the whole topic that we're talking about with diversifying your garden or how you grow food. Is one, it's never a bad thing to have knowledge, and two, you should always have a backup plan because that first plan isn't always going to work. We have to change and evolve sometimes, or adapt, I should say. And that's what this is about. Plus, y'all, we want to build more cabins here. Like, not like Airbnb type thing, but we got 4 cabins we need to build. And if we can have a heat, did you see his face? I didn't even have to look, and I saw his face up here. um, if we can figure out a way to heat those efficiently, using scraps and not having to split wood, and it does an amazing job, why not do it? And the fact that this man has the cob oven or the cob heater in Tennessee, we know it can be done in this climate. Because we were going to do, our friends of ours, good friends of ours, built a hay bale house, and they're in the Ozarks in Missouri, and it wouldn't work here because of the mold. We love it there, but it's dry. Here it's too humid and it rains too much, and people that build here with a straw bale house have mold issues. So this man did this cob oven, the cob heater, and doesn't have any issues with it, and he's had it for several years. So we know that it works because he did it. Good morning, a little bit. How are you? You want to say hi to the world?
Hey.
All right, y'all, we got to get going because Lyndon's got to get on the road, and we've got to get to our class. So we'll share. Is next Sunday when we're getting that video, or the week after? The week after. So next Sunday we'll share what we learned today. All right, y'all have a great morning. Thank you so much for joining us for coffee.
Thanks for joining us.
You were going to say thanks for putting up with me?
Thanks for putting up with her.